Now, you guys know what an advocate and what a champion even, a big fan of the electric revolution I am. Whether it's cars, skateboards, even racing cars, I love to see the technology being pushed forward and developed in front of our very eyes. And having been lucky enough to spend some time over the last week with this Tesla Model S, I have immersed myself and enjoyed the benefits of being, albeit a luxury, electric car owner. It's been brilliant. However, over the last few days and having driven this for so long, I have also come across some of the drawbacks, some of the frustrations of being an electric car owner. So, whilst this beautiful Model S actually drives me home on autopilot mode, I'm going to think about my top 5 reasons why you should consider going fully electric at your next car purchase. But also, to balance it out, I'm going to give you my top 5 reasons why you absolutely shouldn't. In the meantime, I would love it if you could click that little white circle up there in the corner and answer the question that it asks you. And then if you'd be kind enough at the end of this video to click the little white circle again and answer that question, I'd love to get your opinion of electric cars now, and then just to see if that has changed, having watched some of the things I say during the course of this video. Right, I appreciate that not all electric cars are as high-end as the Tesla, and nor should they be. But let's get into 5 reasons why you should consider buying one at your next vehicle purchase. And I'm going to start with performance. Performance is what most people who watch this channel are all about. They love fast cars, they love exciting modes of transport. I am absolutely no different, and an electric car gives you exactly that. Maximum torque at 0 RPM. So the second you hit that throttle pedal, you're getting maximum torque from an electric motor. In a petrol driven car, you've got to wait for that engine to build up to the maximum torque at a certain RPM level, which means you have to wait. You have to wait for that launch off the line. Not with an electric car. The performance is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. And even on a budget end electric car, you cannot help but be impressed by the way it will launch off the line at traffic lights. The cost of an electric car is coming down literally by the month. They are getting cheaper and cheaper, and that's just if you're talking about buying one. And once you own the vehicle, or once you have possession of that vehicle, the cost of running it is so small compared to what we're all used to. You know, the cost of charging it up is tiny compared to filling a gas tank with petrol. The maintenance costs are next to nothing. There's no oil changes, there's no filter changes, there's no kind of, even your brakes last forever because the electric motors are doing most of the braking on the vehicle. So the actual maintenance cost, the service cost of running an electric car, and that's not to mention the kind of benefits you get with things like being able to drive in congestion charges, your tax benefits that are all applied to electric vehicles. The cost of running an electric car is a big, big selling point, and it's really getting to a tipping point now where you can't help but sit up and take notice of how much money you could potentially save by owning a car like this. Charging. Now, this will not apply to everybody, I appreciate, but the fact that you can charge your electric car at home overnight, get up in the morning, and essentially every single day when you leave your house, you've got a full tank. You know, it's not a full tank of gas, it's a full tank of electricity. But you will never leave your home again without having a fully charged car, because you plug it in when you get home, and when you wake up in the morning, it's good to go. Charging doesn't take anywhere near as long as most people think with an electric car either. That Tesla that I was driving around in, you can go from 0 and a completely empty battery to 80% full in around about 40 minutes at a Tesla supercharger station, which are at most service stations. I drove it to Manchester, from London to Manchester the other day. I stopped for a cup of coffee and something to eat. When I came back out, it's pretty much charged up, full to the max again. So charging is no longer the restriction that it used to be. Range. Now, range is not holding electric cars back like people imagine it does. Most people don't do anywhere near the range that an electric car can do in any given day. So I appreciate if you've got to drive all the way up and down the country, if you're a sales rep constantly driving around all day, every day, it's a different story. But for most people, you can do everything you need to do, including some really substantially long journeys and back home again on one single charge of your electric car. So the range is actually very, very good. And if you don't ever have to stop at a petrol station again, it's got to be a bonus too, right? Those people who think electric cars are pretty much boring electric milk floats are just simply wrong. The choice that's becoming available now from almost every single automotive manufacturer is staggering. There is not an automotive manufacturer out there that is not at least working on an electric car variant of their range. And some are coming up with some absolutely amazing pieces of kit. The design constraints of an electric car are such that because you don't need to house an engine or a gearbox anymore, and the battery generally fills the entire floor pan of the car, you can completely redesign an electric car to suit the needs of the modern driver so much better. The interior space, the cabin space, can be enormous, can be so much bigger than the way we're used to. So everything can be approached in a different manner, and that means it's a blank canvas for automotive manufacturers to go away and come up with something exciting when it comes to bringing electric cars to the market. So we are now faced with a choice greater than we've ever had in the past when it comes to electric cars, and that will only increase as time rolls on. Right, why should you not buy an electric car? Now, having said exactly what I've just said, the choice of electric cars is not as great as the choice you have with a traditional combustion-powered car. Absolutely. So if you want a complete catalogue of cars to pick from, okay, maybe you don't have quite the same capabilities. And if you're talking about second-hand cars, the used car market, of course, there is no such thing really at the moment when it comes to electric cars. So your choices are definitely limited compared to the type of car we're all used to up to this point. Cost. Now, the cost of an electric car in some circumstances is still a lot greater than the cost of a more traditional car in terms of the purchase price. So if you want to buy an electric car, they are generally more expensive than their combustion powered equivalents. That Tesla that I was driving around in, beautiful though it is well over £100,000. Now granted, they're not all that expensive, but even so, that's a shocking sum of money, isn't it, when you're trying to promote a new technology to the wider public. You can see a pattern forming here, can't you? Charging. Whilst on one hand, the charging of electric cars is now brilliant, for lots of people it just doesn't work. I live in a house, I've got a driveway, I can plug my car in my driveway outside my house when I get home every single night. It's absolutely brilliant. If you live in a high-rise block of flats, or if you live on a street full of townhouses with no off-street parking, then what do? Then you are really, really limited, and owning an electric car at that point becomes a real inconvenience. It actually almost becomes, an impossibility. There are some companies now in London and other places that are converting street lamps to become charging posts for people who have to park on the street, but that comes with a whole host of other complications. It does mean that an electric car is definitely not for everybody. And having driven that Tesla around for a week or so now, I've also come up against a number of issues. When you pull up to a charging station, there may only be 3 or 4 charge stations at any given point. And if there are 3 or 4 other people already using them, well, those cars could be sat there for 40 minutes or an hour while the owners of those cars rush off to get a meal or dinner or whatever in the service station whilst their car charges. Well, I can't wait an hour before I can actually get onto a charge point to plug my car in, can I? I need to get on my journey. I've also come up against a couple of problems where a charging station which has 2 or 3 different service points, 1 or 2 of those have been out of order, leaving only 1 or 2 still available for use. And of course then they always fill up with other people using them. So those kind of issues are real issues, because at that point your journey can suddenly double in length if you've got a long wait just to get onto the charge point before you can even plug your car in. So the charging network needs to be substantially increased and improved to entice more and more people to buy into the fact that an electric car is a viable alternative. Range. Now, the range on an electric car is getting better and better, but for lots of people who need to do long journeys every single day, people whose lives are spent on the roads, an electric car simply doesn't work yet. If you need to do 400 miles in a day, that's not really going to work for you. If you do less than 200, absolutely fine, it can work brilliantly. But for lots and lots of people and lots of professions and lots of industries, that simply isn't good enough. So the range side of things can still be a problem for lots of people. And of course the other problem is the range anxiety. Now, I have suffered range anxiety, even in that Tesla that has a massive range. You get down to, it's a bit like on your mobile phone, when the thing starts blinking at you, you get down to sort of 10%, you start to panic. You know, what am I going to do? Where am I going to get to? Where am I going to be able to charge this thing up? And when I get there, is the service station going to be operational? Is there going to be a bay free? So range anxiety is still a real deal. And that comes back to the whole charging network needs to be improved. It's all coming, it's just not quite here yet. The technology on the cars, in terms of batteries and in terms of performance, has all moved forward at such an astonishing rate that the charging network that supports this whole new way of automotive technology just isn't there to back it up yet. That needs to be brought up in line with the rate of progress of the technology on board the vehicles themselves. Finally, the technology is changing fast. So why would you buy an electric car at this point when a few years down the line it could be so far outdated? This is a technology in its infancy and developments are happening every week, let alone month or year. People are having new ideas, new brainwaves. There is bound to be a breakthrough in battery technology coming before too long, with the amount of research and development going into it. So if you buy an electric car at this point, you could be left with something that's completely outdated in 5 years' time and absolutely worthless. So why do it? Well, that's where leasing comes in. I would 100% lease an electric car over buying one at this stage, but that also is not for everybody. So there you go. Look, make your own mind up. I'd love you to hit the little white circle up there again and tell me if any of what I've said has changed your opinion of your view on electric car ownership as it stands today. And I hope that's a balanced argument. But as ever, I would love to hear your thoughts. Have you got one? Have you considered buying one? Are you about to buy one? Would you never even think of buying one in a million years just because it's not gas-guzzling, loud, noisy, petrol-driven? Let me know what you think. I'd love to know your thoughts on it. Overall, I would still say, look, there's never a better time than right now to get on board with the latest technology. For me, it's a bit like when a brand new mobile phone is launched and another company is teasing the launch of their new mobile phone just a month or so down the line. It's going to be bigger, better, faster, lighter, whatever it is. At some point, you've just got to jump in and enjoy the technology that's there right now. And for me, there's a lot to enjoy about electric cars. There you go. See you tomorrow.